For most of us, this is a first experience with prolonged social isolation, struggling with the reality of being cooped up in our homes indefinitely. But for my next guest, who spent 544 days in an Iranian prison, there is social distancing and there is social distancing. Journalist Jason Rezaian is the author of Prisoner, an account of his year and a half of captivity. And as he wrote in the Washington Post just yesterday, I survived solitary confinement. You can survive self-isolating. Jason Rezaian joins me now via Skype. Jason, it's great to see you again. Thanks for joining me.
Really good to be back on, Jim, in very different circumstances.
They are. So did you ever think 544 days in an Iranian jail would be of practical value to hundreds of millions of people around the world?
It never occurred to me that this might be something that was going to be applicable for so many folks. And as we started to hunker down over the last couple weeks, I thought to myself, maybe there's something I can share here with my readers. This is not the kind of column I usually write, but apparently it's resonated with a lot of people. You know,
speaking of it's not the column you usually write, I'm reading this thing of yours, and I almost felt like Jason Rezaian became an advice columnist for a day. Dear Jason, I'm stuck in my house. Can you help? And the answer is you did, right?
I guess so. I mean, I think when this is all over, self-help ex-con guru might be my new,
I think you're the right man for the job. Can we go down this list a little bit? You start with something that sort of surprises me. Limit internet, limit TV. Essentially, social media is what a lot of people are saying is allowing them to get through this after a week and a half. Why you make the case you do?
I spent that year and a half not being allowed to get on the internet even for a minute. I was never online throughout. And I'll tell you, that deprivation of having on-demand access to information 24 hours a day, if you're unable to have any access, it's terrible. It's debilitating in a way because you're constantly looking for answers and you can't find them. But when it is at your fingertips at all times, our tendency often is to go and look for the most extreme circumstances, the most extreme things that are happening in the world. And obviously, we're living in extreme times. So I think if you want to calm your mind and limit your anxiety levels, being on the news websites or watching cable television for one of the networks I work for, but I wouldn't advise anybody watching it 24 hours a day.
Fair enough. Read books. I don't think anybody can disagree with that opportunity, which most of us don't have normally. What's at the top of your recommended list?
So, I think people, first of all, should read my book. Everybody in the world should read my book. But after that, I think Alexander Solzhenitsyn's Gulag Archipelago, which is an incredible memoir of his time in the gulags in Soviet Russia, can really remind you that as bad as things might seem to you in your life right now, they could be a hell of a lot worse.
No, I like that. Also, that could be called Prisoner too. So move, laugh, and think about the future are the final three. I'm surprised, thinking about the future for us when we know there's going to be an end point is one thing. How were you able to, did you know that there'd be an end point when you were in the can there for hundreds and hundreds of days in a row?
Honestly, Jim, I had no idea that there would be an end point, but to protect my own sanity and my own sense of hope, I had to assume that there would be. I had to believe to my core that I wasn't going to die in prison. And, 544 days is a very long time to be stuck in that sort of reality. But at the end of the day, any way I shake it, it's still a very small fraction of my life.
And you said even when you were in solitary, you'd move by walking around your cell. I love it. You know what I was really disappointed about, though? When I was reading your recommendations, there were 5 in your column. The one that I thought was missing, that you and I discussed when you were here a year ago, is why didn't you include standing up and singing the StarSpangled Banner? It worked for you, didn't it?
It did, and I think if we look to our friends in Spain and Italy, I think there's a lot of that going on these days from the rooftops. We'll maybe get to that in the days and weeks to come. I wish we could be a little bit prouder of our federal leadership at this point that would inspire us to go out and do it. But I think we can always take solace in the jobs that our mayors and our governors are doing. So maybe it's time that we start singing Star-Spangled Banner, especially since nobody's going to be doing it at ball games, at least for the foreseeable future.
And by the way, just refresh my recollection, you were singing it to your Iranian jailers, and they didn't know until you told them what it is that they were cheering on, correct?
Exactly right. They said, you have to get up and sing. We heard you're a very good singer. I said, I'm not a good singer. I like to sing karaoke whenever I get a chance, but that doesn't make me good at it. They said, you're not going anywhere. You're not having dinner today if you don't sing for us. So I thought to myself, what can I make these guys sing? Said, okay, Star-Spangled Banner, everybody rise, or I'm not going to sing. They did. And I said, this is the ultimate homage that you just paid to the great Satan.
I think people should try it at their homes. Before you leave, can we end in Iran for a second? Reports are the U.S. has offered aid. Doctors Without Borders have offered aid. Iran has an incidence level, I think, the highest in the Middle East. Are you surprised they said no to both?
I'm not surprised that they've said no to the United States offer. They've put in a big request from the International Monetary Fund for about $5 billion in funds to help their efforts. I do believe that Doctors Without Borders supplies and experts have been allowed in. There are always competing centers of power inside the Islamic Republic vying for position, and those who want to see the country isolated don't like to see the government cooperating with the rest of the world. But ultimately, this is one more instance where the people of that country are paying the ultimate price with their lives.
So says noted advice columnist Jason Rezaian. Jason, it's great to see you. Terrific column. We'll keep reading you.
Be well.
Thanks. Very good to see you.